Let's say you murdered your next door neighbor. He played his music too loud at night, and he borrowed your tools from your shed without asking. So, you stab him to death with a knife from his own kitchen. You assume that since there are no witnesses, you'll get off scot-free. But what you don't realize is that in the heat of the moment, you cut your hand on that knife and left a drop of blood on the sink. DNA evidence has been vital in assuring convictions in cases where there are no witnesses ever since the late 1980s. Through DNA, the smallest amount can link a suspect to a case who would have otherwise never been suspected. According to these statistics drawn by the Alabama Department of Forensic Sciences, the number of matches between DNA profiles from unsolved cases directly match the number of DNA samples from arrestees. According to Jennifer Grady in her article, The Ethical Protocol for Collecting DNA Samples in the Criminal Justice System, 30% of sexual assault victims are unable to identify their attackers. Also mentioned in that article was the case of a woman who was attacked in her own home. Unable to identify her attacker, police looked at the DNA samples left at the crime scene and matched them to a man whose profile was already in the database because of a crime he committed years earlier and had gone to prison for. Memory in general is pretty unreliable. If you think back to, say, April 15th of 2020, you might struggle to remember what you ate for breakfast or what time you went to bed. Cases like these can go on for years or even decades, and in that time, memories of those events can become less and less clear. DNA serves as the ultimate witness, states Grady. Now let's say you didn't stab your neighbor. Someone else did. You may have had your differences, but you got along well enough. Even that morning of the crime, you were over at your neighbor's house, helping cut lemons for lemonade. Now let's say you cut your hand on that same knife you were cutting lemons with and got a drop of blood on the sink. Police might use that sample and convict you for a crime you never committed. DNA evidence has a reputation of being concrete, but it actually has a very high margin of error, whether that be through misleading statistics or a lack of scientific legitimacy. As you can see in this article shown by the Innocence Project, invalid and improper statistics are the second leading cause of wrongful convictions at 47%. Rachel Kaufman notes these scientific errors in her article, Forensic Science Controversies. Hair analysis is inaccurate. Bullet analysis is unreliable. And bite mark analysis has little to no scientific backing. These statistics are often presented inaccurately in court or are purposefully misleading in order to ensure convictions. Kaufman supposes that people in the criminal justice system ignore these inconsistencies out of concern it would be harder to assure convictions. It is estimated that up to 5% of felons convicted of serious crimes, like rape and murder, are actually wrongly convicted. DNA has helped solve thousands of cases that would have otherwise gone cold and brought justice to victims and families alike. Hopefully one day, scientific advancements will lower this margin of error and bring a fair trial to those accused.